Hey everyone, just jumping on here to make a quick video. I know it's been a little while since I've given an update, but I do hope to do that in the next couple weeks, maybe by the end of the month. And that way I can give an update at the 5-month mark. So that'll be the beginning of December. But why I'm jumping on is, as I've been working away on my assignments, I thought it would be good to share a little bit about my process as to how to streamline doing the tasks that you're doing. And at South College, there are a lot of tasks, as I've mentioned in many videos. And so you really want to be good at getting efficient. And there are these little tactics that can help you along the way. Now, I'm in the specialization courses, which is kind of like after you finish core courses, you go into one of, I think there's 7 specializations in education. Mine is adult learning and development. But no matter what, for anyone in any program in the South College doctorate, I think it's really important. Tip number 1 is to understand APA formatting version 7 at the point of this video inside out. No question, no doubt, you have to know that inside out. Now, my assumption is that a lot of people have done master's degrees, and whether that's relatively recently or not, they probably did some APA and therefore they have knowledge of it. However, there's a difference between kind of knowing it and knowing it inside out. So for example, there have been assignments that have been turned back for me to resubmit, not because the content of what I was sharing was subpar or whatever. It's because I forgot in the title page the name of the instructor, or I forgot to bold a title. And not all instructors are that picky, and I find South College is generally pretty good and lenient about some of those details. However, you will have instructors that are experts at APA, and they will see anything and everything that is done incorrectly, and they will point that out to you. Now, you may get revisions like I have, and therefore you have to wait an additional 3 days, because sometimes it can take up to 72 hours to get feedback or a check mark that you've done the assignment correctly to mastery, which is the level of competence you need to reach. And if you get a revision, you have to wait again. So you don't want to lose out on those little details. And you might be thinking, well, I'll learn along the way while I'm doing my assignments. But again, you're making the process less efficient. So just come into the program learning about APA. These are the conventions, and then practice them. So pretend you're going to set up a template or a paper, and where do the titles go? Where do the subtitles? How do you make in-text citation? How do you do your references? Use end dashes for number ranges. When do you italics? When do you not italics the reference? What does the title page look like version 6 versus version 7, which there's some slight distinctions, I believe. So there's details you need to know, and obviously you can open up a past paper and then use that as a template. However, I find that there's a lot of details. It's not just like a few things you have to remember. There's a lot. Now, there are tools in Word that it kind of sets up the template for you. However, I just find that it's good to understand what you're doing, because, I don't know, if for some reason something isn't done properly, you can look in, see that you need to fix something with the APA, and you won't have issues from your instructors. Most of my revisions come back to formatting and writing issues. Sometimes if I'm missing something from the rubric, that comes up as a revision, but it's almost always around formatting in some way. And APA is not just formatting. Like, there's a certain technique around doing, let's say, an annotated bibliography. So I would come into the program knowing what annotated bibliography is, what makes a good one, what makes a not so good one. Then how does that lend to a literature review, and how would you start writing a literature review? And you want to think about how a literature review is different than a research paper. So there's this process set in place, but each part of the process has a distinct purpose when it comes to doing scholarly work. And in a doctoral degree, whether it's a practitioner-based doctoral degree like an EdD or DBA, you have to do scholarly writing, academic writing. I've mentioned this many times. Tip number 2 is more around your workflow. And I would say what I've learned is I need to have consistency through the degree, but I also need to establish flexibility. The consistency is that you're going to have a goal, and you have to decide what that goal will be. So per week, do you want to do X amount of assignments and maybe give yourself a range, like I want to complete 2 to 3 assignments a week, or is it per day? In the summer, I was doing 2 assignments a day, and because I had that goal in my mind and I had a lot of time to do my work, I stuck to that. I would just do the assignments, get them done, and then move on with my day. So the consistency means that you have to establish, based on the nature of your life and your lifestyle, what that will look like in completing tasks, knowing that South College has a lot of assignments, upwards of 20 assignments, which includes both the formative and summative assessments, and that you need to somehow maintain momentum. Now, you can switch your consistency over the degree, like maybe like me, you're teaching a really rigorous schedule at a certain point in the year, so you have to adapt your consistency, and that's fine. Now, understanding flexibility means when are those times that you're going to drop the consistency because you need more room in your life for other things. So you want to think about, okay, what are the rules that allow me to break my consistency? So for me, certain life occasions, like if there's a wedding from a friend, okay, I'm going to drop my consistency to go do something else in my life. Or, if I'm sick, that's obviously a big one. And then if I'm approaching something like burnout, if you feel like you're approaching burnout and you're like starting to lose all drive to do your work and you just can't take it anymore, obviously you need to back off somehow and just do whatever you can to regain energy. And probably paper writing is not going to give you energy. So detach from school for a while. You're going to think about the permission you give yourself to take off time to do X, whether it's go to an occasion or restore. So do you want to give yourself kind of upwards of a week? Now, in the moment, you might have a better feeling sense of what you need. But, when's a point by which you're going to start losing momentum? So if you take off a whole month, that might be useful to some degree, but then it will be hard to get back in the swing of things. So try to think, at most I might want to give myself a week off. And even if you ease back into it again and just do an assignment here and there throughout the week, that's better than maybe doing nothing at all for like a month and then 2 months, because you can get really in your head and stuck in one spot by losing momentum. So strategy number 3 is specific to the assignments. So what you'll notice at South College is that there's a bunch of competencies within a course. And so what that means is there are these key learning objectives that are within a group of assignments. And so a competency might have upwards of like 5 or 6 assignments. Now, if you're just kind of going competency by competency, you might lose an opportunity to really streamline and make your process efficient. For example, I'm noticing with the specialization courses that there's a lot of like academic work at the beginning of a course. So the competency 1 might have annotated bibliographies, literature reviews, some sort of research investigation to kind of set yourself up for the theoretical framework of the course. Now, again, I have no clue what the DBA program is like. With the specialization courses, it may be completely different. And maybe other EdD specialization courses are different than this, but there is usually some sort of research component within my specialization. However, don't not look ahead. Look ahead because maybe you'll have a research paper in the 4th competency and you realize like, oh, what if I start collecting sources in that 1st competency that relate to later on in the course that research paper? Because a lot of the time the assignments are very student driven, like the topics you write about. Yes, you have to write about theories, but you can pick and choose which ones are relevant to you and your practice. If you don't look ahead, you might not realize that you can do double duty here. Like you can choose sources for annotated bibliography, write a literature review on a research topic later on. Now, there's a disclaimer here, and I brought this up in another video, is don't ruminate and think in a loop over and over again about all the work you have to do. So if you're constantly thinking about ahead of everything you have to do in your program, you're going to get overwhelmed because there's a lot of work. This is rigorous academic work. This is doctoral level work, and you don't want to overwhelm yourself. So look ahead, but get in to that competency, see what you have to do later on, and get out. And don't think about it after that. Just go work on your tasks that you're doing now and focus on those. And the 4th strategy that I would really highly suggest, and even the instructors will suggest this throughout your courses, is start thinking about a dissertation topic, but document your sources that relate to that. So if you're doing a course and you're finding different theories and different best practices on experiential learning theory, which you might relate to your dissertation topic later on, then put those sources that you're finding throughout your courses and plug them into something like Mendeley or another reference management tool. Or for me, I just set up an Excel sheet and I have all these different columns. I obviously have the academic source, and I even make sure it's perfectly in there in the perfect APA formatting, so I don't have to change that later on. I have a column for if I've investigated that it's peer reviewed, because the sources at a dissertation level should be peer reviewed and within the last 5 years. So maybe I won't look into that right away, but I just have a column to say yes, it's peer reviewed or not. And if it's not, maybe I won't use it, but who knows, maybe it's still usable depending on if it's credible in other ways. Have a column for maybe a summary that you write of the article, of the research, some of the findings, some of the outcomes, and then you could even annotate it. And when I say an annotation, it's not just the summary, it's looking at why the article might be useful, how is it relevant to your research topic. So every day that I'm writing, I'm always going into that dissertation Excel sheet, flagging things that I think would be useful later on. I even color code it, like this might be useful, it's in a light yellow. This is really useful as it relates to my topic right now, and that's in a green. All right, those are the tips I have for now. Let me know if you have any more tips, if you're at South College and you know that these things work for you to streamline your degree. I'd love to hear about that. I'm sure others would too. Thanks for listening in, and I'll see you in another video.